This is tape number ET6 from the library of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. Two meditations by Howard Thurman. This is side 1, entitled The Crucifixion.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Practically all over the world today, there are groups, large and small, observing Good Friday. I want to read 2 paragraphs from The Hand of God by McCall and make 1 or 2 comments about the significance of this day in terms of the personal experience of Jesus of Nazareth. And you said, hanging there, man is a fearful contradiction against himself. I should rather be here with my faith in him than elsewhere sharing his unbelief. By this fidelity to the God in me, man may yet hear me calling to the God in him. God is everything to man, everything. To the measure that he does not know it, he has nothing. And then the silence came down again. Sitting there, I watched you a little while longer, Galilean. Then I said, you dreamed a dream that was resented, and rather than betray it, you bore right onward and received the shock of men's resentment in yourself. You are killed by men's sin. And as I said that, I noticed how a leafless shrub, growing gaunt from the stones, shuddered in the bleak wind that of a sudden moaned and passed. I rose up, and I walked over to you, and I said, Galilean, God wins when men believe in him and in man like this. This is God's victory. This is how God is mediated into the world. This is how the sin of the world will be taken away. But how much of himself should a man give? How much of himself should a man give? You did not answer me, and in the awful stillness I saw your head was sunken on your breast. There was no more for you to give. There are many significant and far-reaching interpretations, theological and philosophical in character, that are given to the meaning of the crucifixion of Jesus, the cross in the whole drama of Christianity as it confronts the human spirit. But the comments that I would make to you are very simple and very human comments. The first is that we see in the crucifixion of Jesus the logic of the kind of life he had lived, step by relentless step, following the full-orbed implications of the religious experience which he had, following the full-orbed implication of his commitment to his Father and to the kingdom of God. He landed outside the city wall between two thieves. The event of his death cannot be separated from the logic of his life. It is of one piece, following the sort of life that he followed, given his kind of life. It was but a consistent part of the logic of that life that he would run counter to the forces that stood for the things against which he stood with his life, so that the cross, the crucifixion, belongs to the pedestrian movement of the life of the Master. The second thing that is interesting and significant to me personally in the whole experience is that here it seems that he made one of the profound discoveries of the human spirit, and that is that death is not the worst thing in the world. There are some things in life that are worse than death. As soon as a man is brought to the point that he places the highest possible premium upon his own physical existence, he is for sale. Dictators know this. Why is it that they surround the climate in which their people live with an atmosphere which says that your physical existence is of great moment? It is, after all, of transcendent moment. It is the most important thing, so that you must guard your physical existence with all of the resources of your personality. Now, once this is settled in the mind, so that death becomes the monster, then all men need to do who wish to control you is to threaten to kill you. If they threaten to take your physical life and you have placed a transcendent premium upon your physical life, then anyone who is able to bring an end to your physical life, you will give to that person any hostage. Principles, character, morality, values, everything. But if, on the other hand, a man recognizes that death is an experience in life, it is not something that happens to life, then this means, you see, that death is one of the events in life. It is episodic in character. It is eventful in character. And inasmuch then as it is the common experience of man that no event is ever able to contain all that you mean by your deed, or all that you mean by your life, there is no experience that you've ever had that is quite able to contain all of you. Some margin of you is left over, so that with reference to all experience, you are both a participant in the experience and an observer of yourself as a participant. Participant, observer. This is how we deal with the raw materials of our experience. Now, if death then is one of the events in life, if it is one of the experiences of life, then why should man's encounter with death be other than his encounter with any other experience which is eventful and experiential in life? It is for this reason, I think, that many times men can be aware of the fact that they are dying right up to the end, because the observer dimension of their personality is aware of the participant aspect of their life. Now, Jesus discovered this, so that when he had to face the hard choice of going straight through to the fulfillment of the will of God in his life and heart and mind and spirit, death became a little thing. This is not to suggest that he did not want to live. No, no. But it is to say that given the commitment of his life, rather than to betray it, rather than to lose the grounds of his integrity, so that with reference to the quality of his own living, he would not have an attitude that was negative and meaningless, he died. Some things in life that are worse than death. This is the second thing. Now the third and final comment that I wish to make is this, that very often it is in the midst of the suffering, in the midst of the pain, in the midst of the tragedy, in the midst of that which is so excruciatingly devastating in the impact upon the life that it seems as if there is no release or surcease from the relentless pressure. In the midst of such circumstances, the human spirit has a wonderful dimension. It is able to deal with the pain of life, with the tragic consequence of life, with all of the misery and the pathos and the ache of life, with creativity. Now what do I mean? Simply this, that the pain of life, the peace that passeth understanding, very often is the peace that comes when the pain of life is not relieved. It is the peace that comes shimmering on the crest of a wave of pain. It is the spear of frustration transformed into a shaft of light. This is his discovery, and I speak with great reverence because of it. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer.
This is tape number ET6 from the library of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. This is side 2, entitled Good Friday.
And the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. There is still something to me almost incredible in the idea of a young Galilean peasant imagining that he could bear on his own shoulders the burden of the entire world, all that had already been done and suffered, and all that was yet to be done and suffered, the sins of Nero, of Alexander VI, and of him who was emperor of Rome and priest of the sun, the sufferings of those whose names are legion and whose dwelling is among the tombs, oppressed nationalities, factory children, thieves, people in prison, outcasts, those who are dumb under oppression and whose silence is heard only of God, and not merely imagining this, but actually achieving it, so that at the present moment all who come in contact with his personality, even though they may neither bow to his altar or kneel before his priest, in some way find that the ugliness of their sin is taken away and the beauty of their sorrow revealed to them. These are the words of Oscar Wilde from De Profundis. And then these words from a British poet. They are words that are placed upon the lips of the brothers of Jesus. Going from Nazareth, where? To the Jordan Valley, leaving your home and your trade, your own kinsfolk. For what? For an unwashed preacher, a ranting hermit who sacrificed family and wealth, and a seat in the priesthood for locusts and prophecies? Why? You are mad, insane, selling your life for a whim, for a religious frenzy. Yes, you're mad. Will you share his faith and his filth? Outcasts like him, rejected by brother and friend, a life of rebellion, hunger, a shameful death? If the thought of that leaves you unmoved, then remember us, your brothers and sisters, the mother who gave you birth. See her there, standing in tears, forsaken, bewildered, left by her firstborn, you, the head of the household. Think of her neighbor's looks, the humiliation, her fears and her griefs. What? What do you say? Whoever obeys the will of my Father in heaven is my brother, my sister, my mother. By the God of Israel, would you preach at us? Your ministry start at home? Better recall, if you can, your father in Nazareth, your pledge to him, your promise of filial care. You shall honor your father and mother. Remember that when you mouth your texts. Remember that, and carry forever the shame of your father's children. It is no accident of human history that Good Friday, or Holy Week as it is known in the Christian faith and tradition, must forever be a part of the mood and the time interval of Passover. For it must always be remembered that whatever may have become the great and transcending meaning of the life and the teachings and the whole integrated fullness of the life of Jesus of Nazareth, as he lived and functioned in the world of time and space on this planet, he was a Jew. And therefore, Christianity is rooted and grounded
in this basic monotheistic approach to the meaning of life and the meaning of existence, the meaning of grace and the meaning of redemption. Today is Good Friday, and always on this day I am reminded not merely of the drama of this occasion, the death, the crucifixion, all the extended agony of that timeless interval, but also I'm reminded of the life of which this crucifixion was a part. The crucifixion was the logic of the life that the Master lived. There are two or three very simple things which seem to me we might gather for our own meditation and reflection as we contemplate the events of this day. And the first to which I would call your attention is the tremendous discovery which it seems to me he made, and the discovery which he manifested in the manner by which he entered into the encounter with death. And that discovery is an ancient one, but it stands in his experience in a strange and wonderfully magnificent light. And what is that discovery? The discovery is that death is not the worst thing in the world. I repeat that. That death is not the worst thing in the world, that there are some things in life that are worse than death. This idea that to live and to regard living as the extension of the time interval of a man's existence, and to live without dignity, without integrity, without any deep sense of the integrity of the self, to accept life on any terms that life may offer, and to say yes to whatever life hands one. This is what I'm talking about. The discovery that death is not, after all, the worst thing in the world, that there comes a time, there may come a time in a man's life when he must cast his vote, either to live with the dignity and the strength and the character and the insight of a man, with convictions, with a sense of the dignity of his life, or to die. And when this choice is before one, then one may reflect upon the meaning of the events of this day, the tremendously universal disclosure that a man's physical life does not represent that upon which he should place the highest premium, the integrity of his spirit, the integrity of his soul, the meaning of his root. This is the thing that abides. Now, the second rather significant discovery which is made here belongs to the whole panorama of man's dealing with frustration and pain and suffering. And there are two aspects to this insight. And the first aspect is that whatever may be the contradictions of life, of your life or my life, at any particular moment in time. These contradictions must not be regarded as final, as ultimate things, that there is no absolute and thoroughgoing dichotomy between the things that we regard as working against life and the things that we regard as working for life, that life is contained in a vast creative continuum, and the conflict between the contradictions of life is of necessity a limited and a temporary one. And the second thing that follows is that there is a dimension of the human spirit that is capable of absorbing all of the violences of existence. One of the earlier men wrote about it in this way. He talks about the difference between the peace that one can understand and the peace that passeth understanding. He says, in substance, that if a man is hungry and gets food to eat, or is lonely and finds a friend, he can understand the sense of physical well-being that comes over him. This is a peace that makes sense. It belongs to a rational pattern, but the peace that passeth understanding is the peace that comes when the pain of life is not relieved. It is the peace that comes shimmering on the crest of a wave of pain. It is the spear of frustration transformed into a shaft of light. Here the master discovers the peace that transcends the pain, the conflict, because that which spoke to his condition and which he reflected is something that is as eternal as God. It is his discovery, and it may be yours and mine. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.